The ocean swallowed his past, but it couldn't drown his rage. 7 years of drifting across endless waves. 7 years where each new day only intensified his hatred. Damien Jensen had walked away from the life where he was betrayed by those he once considered family. A wife who lied to him for years. Children who chose her deceit over his truth. He cut himself off from everything that reminded him of the shattered life he left behind, until one day his self-imposed exile was broken. The phone call caught him off guard. Kendra's voice sounded unnervingly tense, as if apology was tangled with desperation. All for the sake of a child he never knew existed. A girl who turned out to be his daughter. Kaya. A little girl, dying, desperately in need of salvation. And now those who betrayed him came begging for help. Their pleas only fueled his anger. They wanted something from him that he had long since ceased to consider theirs, a part of himself. The game had begun, but this time he set the rules. Damien was ready to show them what it truly meant to lose. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. My name is Damien Jensen, and this is the story of how I came to understand that the foundation of my life was far more fragile than I ever imagined. For the longest time, I believed I'd spent 24 solid, fulfilling years married to my wife, Sabrina, years that seemed wrapped in love, security, and a shared future I took comfort in. But that belief turned out to be an illusion. In truth, only the first 21 of those years held any real happiness, at least from my perspective. Then everything changed, suddenly and silently. Sabrina had made up her mind, quietly and completely. She was finished, with me, with our marriage, with the life we'd carefully built together, and I had no idea. For 3 years, she had been in a relationship with another man, Jared Whitman. This wasn't a momentary lapse or a fleeting affair. It was something real, something sustained and deliberately hidden. Even at my age, the discovery shattered me. If her love for me had ended, I wish she'd just told me. I would have preferred painful honesty to being strung along by pity or guilt. The revelation hit like a floor collapsing beneath my feet. Once the initial wave of disbelief passed, I tried to steady myself in the wreckage. We split, of course, but the betrayal that truly gutted me didn't come from Sabrina. It came from our children, Julian, Marcus, and Kendra. They knew. They'd known about her affair for a long time, and they chose to keep it from me. I had always believed that trust between a father and his kids was sacred, especially in moments when everything's falling apart. But they didn't see it that way. When I confronted them, their justification was that they didn't want to be caught in the middle, or that shielding me somehow spared me more pain. So they stayed quiet and let me live in the dark. That betrayal? It ran deeper than anything Sabrina ever did. And to this day, I still don't know whether their silence was a hard decision or an easy one. Either way, they stood by their mother and left me to fend for myself. But I wasn't going to wither away in some dim apartment, mourning the life I'd lost. I did the only thing that felt like forward motion. I bought a boat and took to the sea. The ocean became my sanctuary, a place to quietly wrestle with heartbreak, rage, and the gaping emptiness left behind. Now and then I picked up freelance charter gigs, but mostly I floated. Drifting in every sense of the word, untethered, disconnected, deliberately rootless. That became my new normal. Endless waves, the straightforward language of wind and water, the steady rhythm of escape. 7 years passed that way, with almost no contact from the life I'd left behind. Then, out of nowhere, Kendra called. I remember it vividly. I was on the deck, sun warming my back, when the call came through. Her voice buzzed from the speaker, tense and to the point. No pleasantries, no soft entry. Sabrina had a daughter now, a little girl named Kaya, and Kaya was critically ill. They needed me to be tested. She might need a kidney. I didn't need to ask why they were calling me. I already knew. Kendra confirmed it anyway. Kaya was my child. Mine. Sabrina had left our marriage carrying my child and had never said a word. I had a daughter I'd never met, and now they wanted something from me. Even worse, my other children had known. They'd kept this secret too. Compared to that, the first betrayal felt almost insignificant. This wasn't just a crack in my heart. It was the erasure of everything I thought was real. I realized I was done letting them control the narrative. No more guilt, no more manipulation. I told them I was heading for Bermuda and turned off my phone. I was untying the final rope when I heard footsteps pounding down the dock. Sabrina appeared, frantic. Without hesitation, she leapt the gap between pier and boat, at least 7 feet, landing hard and scrambling aboard. Before I could react, she snapped a pair of handcuffs on her own wrist and clipped herself to the cleat. "Damien, I know you're angry," she gasped, breath ragged. "But Kaya needs you. If she doesn't get a kidney, she's going to die. Please, don't punish her for my sins. I'm begging you." She locked eyes with me and added, "I know you're a better man than this." I let out a cold laugh. "Oh, now I'm a good man? Because you need a piece of me? That's convenient." "You didn't want me around when I was your husband," I said, voice edged with bitterness. "But now you think I'm useful, because you want to take something from me." Then I glanced toward the dock and saw her, a small, fragile-looking girl, standing with fear in her eyes. Kaya. I couldn't see her clearly, but the way she stood, the way her voice quivered when she called out, it was unmistakable. "Mommy!" she cried on the verge of tears. Sabrina shouted back, "It's okay, sweetheart, I'm fixing it." Then she turned to me again, eyes pleading, "Please, Damien." That raw, aching place inside me hardened into something sharp. I moved to the throttle, and the boat began to ease away from the pier. "Damien! Damien!" she screamed, yanking at the handcuffs. "You can't do this! She's right there!" "You should have thought of that," I said flatly, "before you chained yourself to my boat. I told you to get off. We're leaving. She's your daughter. Kaya's your blood. How can you turn your back on her?" My voice was cold steel. "I don't know a girl named Kaya," I said. "I didn't teach her to ride a bike. I didn't kiss her goodnight. I never watched her blow out birthday candles. She's a stranger to me, a stranger born of a woman who walked away." "Do me a favor and stop dictating my choices," Sabrina said, her voice fraying with desperation. "If you won't do it for me, then at least think of her. She's a child, your child, no matter how much you want to pretend otherwise." I eased back on the throttle. The boat coasted forward, momentum carrying it as I wrestled with the urge to toss her overboard. I didn't act on it. Assault charges weren't exactly going to make this situation any easier. "Sabrina, unchain yourself and get the hell off my boat. That's the last time I ask nicely. You don't want to find out what happens if I have to do it myself." She turned toward me, panic in her eyes like a cornered animal. She yanked her wrist hard, and the metal cuffs clanked against the cleat she'd locked herself to. "I can't," she shouted, almost hysterical. "Julian has the key." I looked back at the dock. A small crowd had formed, Julian, Marcus, and the girl, calling out things I couldn't hear over the engine and the crashing surf. I turned back to Sabrina, eyes narrowing. "Well, that sounds like a you problem," I muttered, then shoved the throttle forward. The boat surged ahead, cutting off whatever plea she was about to make. She hit the deck, gripping the cleat like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to reality. My fury at having her on board was so consuming I didn't even notice the Coast Guard boat accelerating behind us. They didn't come quietly. A loud voice crackled over the radio, followed by flashing lights, and just to make their point clear, a mounted cannon glinted on their bow. I wasn't planning to die out there, so I cut the engine. Moments later, a smaller vessel zipped up alongside us, packed with uniformed officers. They boarded without a word, no greetings, no nonsense. One of them stepped forward, already demanding answers. "She kidnapped me!" Sabrina cried, her voice raw. She held up her cuffed wrist like a trophy, shaking it for emphasis. The officer turned his attention to me, his gaze narrowing. "That true?" I let out a dry laugh. "She's completely delusional. Climbed on without permission and locked herself to my boat. If you want to take her off my hands, please, be my guest." "She doesn't exactly look welcome," the officer said flatly. The rest of them shared that silent, knowing glance, the kind people exchange when they know someone's lying, but haven't figured out who. Sabrina was a mess. Red-eyed, trembling, cuffed to the boat. I wasn't exactly a poster boy for innocence either. Tense, pissed off, cornered. Not the best optics. "We need the key," one of them said. "Hand it over." I glared at him. "I don't have the key. She brought those damn cuffs. What do you want me to do? Pull it out of thin air?" Apparently, that didn't fly. Without another word, an officer stepped forward, grabbed my arm, and clamped cuffs onto me, tight enough to bite into my skin. "I'm telling you the truth," I said through gritted teeth. They bent down near the cleat, inspecting the bolts. One of them pulled out a screwdriver and worked at it until the metal finally gave. The cleat came free with the cuff still attached. Sabrina rose slowly, rubbing her wrist like she'd just won a fight. "Well, now you have to come back," she said, smug. "You've really outdone yourself this time." "You're hardly blameless," I snapped, shooting her a glare sharp enough to cut steel. But the outcome was no longer in doubt. I was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and painted as the villain. They took me in, not violently, but with no kindness either. After hours of being grilled, I finally asked for a lawyer. That changed everything. They charged me, federally, with attempted kidnapping. Sabrina's little performance had set off enough alarms to bring in the heavy hitters. I'd never even gotten a speeding ticket before. Now I was labeled a criminal, a kidnapper, all because of one impulsive act during a breakdown. 24 years of marriage, and this was where it ended. I thought I was sailing away from the wreckage. Turns out, I was heading straight into it. And then came the final gut punch. Sabrina showed up at the jail the next day, flanked by Jared Whitman. Just seeing him made my blood boil. He didn't have to say a thing. His whole presence screamed smug satisfaction. Like everything had unfolded exactly the way he wanted. Sabrina placed her hand against the glass between us, voice soft, almost tender. "Let's not drag this out," she said. "If you agree to the transplant, we'll call it off. No trial, no jail. Life goes back to normal. And Kaya survives." She hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't sound like manipulation. "You could be the hero here. You'd be saving her life." Jared stood silent, arms crossed, eyes locked onto mine. His look was a challenge in itself. "We didn't want this," he finally said. "But Kaya's dying. That's the truth. If you have any heart left—" I cut him off, calm and icy. "Funny to hear you talk about doing the right thing," I said. "Where was that conscience of yours when you were screwing my wife for 3 years?" His face turned red. Sabrina looked away, tears forming. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We both are. But what's done is done. Right now, we need you. She needs you." I gave a thin, cold smile. "Now you need me." Then I lifted a single finger and tapped the glass. "We'll see how the trial goes. But let me give you a heads up now. If I end up behind bars, that kidney's not happening. I don't imagine any judge is going to order an inmate prepped for surgery. Maybe I'll just take a plea and serve a clean 7 years. Whatever Kaya decides to do from there is on her. I'm not shouldering that responsibility." Sabrina turned pale, like all the blood drained right out of her. Jared muttered something sharp, his voice cutting through the air. "You'd seriously let a kid die just to spite us?" I leaned back, the cheap plastic chair creaking beneath me. "This isn't about letting anyone die. This is about you thinking you can guilt-trip me after everything you did. If Kaya's really mine, you had 7 damn years to tell me. You're the ones who decided to keep me in the dark. So no, I'm not jumping just because you're in a panic now. They started hammering on the glass, panic stripping away any pride they walked in with. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for them. Then the anger surged back, bitter and sharp. They left in a flurry of fear and fury. And funny enough, that's what got me a lawyer, one they paid for. He showed up a few days later in a tailored suit, briefcase in hand, introducing himself as Malcolm Hartley. He looked like a walking advertisement, slick hair, perfect posture, full of assurance. "Good afternoon, Mr. Jensen," he said, reaching out to shake my hand. "I've been assigned to represent you." I narrowed my eyes. "That so? You a public defender or what?" He shook his head, slow and deliberate. "No, sir. Mr. and Mrs. Whitman have offered to cover your legal fees." That actually made me laugh, a dry, hollow sound with no real humor behind it. "So tell me this, are you their guy or mine?" He offered a diplomatic smile. "I understand the concern. Legally, I work for you. My responsibility is to protect your interests. But yes, they're covering the cost." "Then I want that in black and white," I said. "Put it in writing that you represent me, not them. And make sure it includes a note about the retainer being paid in full. I don't need you ghosting the second they regret footing the bill." One of his brows lifted, surprised, maybe even impressed. "That's fair. I'll have the paperwork to you by tomorrow." And just like that, I had legal counsel, thanks to the same people I could barely stand to look at. They backed me into a corner, then tried to smooth things over by throwing money at the problem. That night, lying on a stiff cot with nothing but silence and my own thoughts, I had a lot to chew on. I used to believe I was a decent man. But now there's a part of me that runs on spite. I kept turning the question over and over. Could I really live with the guilt of saying no to a child who needed a kidney? Not just any child, my own flesh and blood. As much as I resented Sabrina and Jared, Kaya hadn't done anything wrong. But the anger? It throbbed through me like a second pulse. And I couldn't forget how abandoned I felt when I was at my lowest. Sabrina had moved on, new guy, more kids, the happy family portrait. Meanwhile, I was alone, completely alone. They shut me out without a second thought, and now they wanted me back, just long enough to cut a piece out of me. When they paid my bail, another gift, I walked out of that cell more conflicted than ever. I didn't even get a chance to adjust to the outside air before they descended on me in the parking lot. Sabrina, Julian, and Kendra, standing there in the setting sun like they belonged in some tragic painting. Sabrina's voice cracked. "Damien, we need to talk." I rolled my neck, trying to shake off the tension. "You do know there's a restraining order in place, right? That little kidnapping accusation you threw at me? You're not supposed to be within shouting distance." Julian looked like he'd swallowed a handful of nails. "We know, and yeah, we get it. You're furious. You should be. But Kaya's in bad shape. Dialysis isn't working anymore. We're running out of time." I laughed, but there was no joy in it. "You think this is just a grudge? You let me walk blind through the collapse of my own marriage. You hid her affair, and you kept my daughter from me for 7 years, and now you're acting shocked that I'm angry?" My voice climbed with every word, the rage rising like a tide. "You want to call that a grudge? Fine, but don't pretend it isn't justified." Marcus wasn't there, probably still deployed with the Navy. The others tried to stay strong, but I saw it in their eyes. They were terrified. Kendra stepped forward, tears brimming. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was just a kid. I didn't want to lose Mom or you. I didn't know what to do. I know it wasn't right. But we never meant for it to turn out like this. Kaya never asked to be kept from you. If you don't help her, she's going to die." I stared at her, my expression unreadable. "Kids die every day," I said, voice flat. You're talking like every child is guaranteed a future. That's not how life works. And from what I hear, there are other donors. You don't have to grovel. Sabrina's voice had softened, adopting a more conciliatory tone. Damien, we've tested everyone in the family, even me. No one's a viable match. The doctors said our best bet is a healthy biological parent, and apparently I don't make the cut. She dropped her gaze. My kidney won't help, so that leaves you. A humorless laugh escaped me. Funny, considering you once made it clear I was disposable. Her face tightened, a flicker of shame, quickly replaced by frustration. I'm tired of apologizing. How many times do I need to say it? She snapped. Yes, I cheated. Yes, I took the kids and walked out. I broke everything. But Kaya, she's still your daughter. She's part of who you are. If that doesn't mean anything to you, then go. Just be honest about what you're turning your back on. I exhaled sharply, rubbing my temples. So if I walk away, I'm the bad guy. How convenient. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't really a choice, I muttered, pivoting toward the run-down motel. I'd only taken a few steps when Julian's voice rang out behind me. When did you turn into such an asshole? I whirled around. Oh, that's Rich. I'm the asshole because I won't bend over backward for the same people who cut me out. My voice was rising. Maybe this version of me is all that's left. He shouted something else, but Sabrina and Kendra restrained him. I didn't wait around. I slipped through the door and shut them out. The next morning, at the hospital, a nurse handed me a clipboard full of preliminary forms. She looked young and self-assured, probably used to calming, jittery donors. She kept thanking me, calling it a selfless act, her smile unwavering. I didn't bother explaining the mess behind the gesture. Sabrina and Kendra walked in moments later. The second they spotted me with the nurse, both froze mid-step. The nurse, unaware of the tension thickening the room, beamed at them. Family, right? That's always wonderful to see. It really does make a difference. Sabrina forced a brittle smile. Yes, I'm her mother, she said, gesturing toward me without meeting my eyes. And he's her biological father. The nurse's smile faltered slightly, sensing something off. We're not together, I said flatly. She's my ex-wife. That's all there is to it. Sabrina's lips pressed into a hard line, but she didn't respond. What matters, she said, trying to summon warmth, is that we're here. Kaya needs this. You'll be the reason she survives, and maybe we can find some middle ground. I shrugged non-committally. Let's see what the results say first. When the nurse left the room, I turned to Sabrina, my words icy. Don't get any ideas. This doesn't mean you hold anything over me. I said yes to the testing. That's the beginning and end of it. She squared her shoulders, her voice sharpening. Don't threaten me, Damien. If you back out now, you'll have me, my husband, the kids, everyone who still believes in decency, coming for you. You'll be branded a monster. I raised an eyebrow. Already been there, thanks to you. And if it happens again? I smirked. Won't make a difference. Kendra stepped in, her voice trembling. Can we just stop? Her eyes were glassy. Kaya can barely stay awake, and you're both treating this like a battlefield. This isn't the time for grudges. Her pain was palpable. I swallowed my retort. Fine, I said. Let's do the testing. If I'm a match, then we'll talk. Turned out I was a perfect match. The doctors looked like they'd won the lottery. Said it gave Kaya the best odds possible. They couldn't see the wreckage underneath all the polite nods. Sabrina broke down crying, clinging to Jared and the kids. I stood apart, an outsider at my own family's crisis. Then the flood started. Messages, voicemails, constant nudges to schedule the surgery. For once, I had the upper hand. So I called them all together. Sabrina, Jared, my 3 adult children, and, just for irony's sake, my lawyer. I had conditions. I checked the transplant registry, I began. Kaya's got other options. Not many, but some. I'm not the only possible match. just the most reliable one. So yeah, I'll go through with it, but there are strings. Julian looked at me like I'd sprouted horns. You're giving us terms? Dad, this is about saving Kaya's life. And you think that means I have no say? I shot back. That I don't get to draw a line? I shot back, my tone like ice. This isn't some negotiation. This is me clawing back a shred of dignity after everything you all let happen to me. Spare me the lectures about morality. When I was drowning, you didn't lift a finger. So if turning this into a deal makes me the villain, guess what? I learned that behavior from the best. If this makes your stomach turn, then go find another hero, I added, watching his hands ball into fists, his whole frame trembling with rage. You've changed, he spat. You're not the person I used to know. Before I could respond, Sabrina's voice cut in, sharp as a blade. That's enough, she snapped. We'll hear you out. Say what you came to say, but don't expect me to grovel. I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Oh, but I do expect that. Eventually. They all fell quiet, eyes locked on me as I reached into my bag and pulled out 3 documents, smoothing them across the table. These, I said, tapping them, are legal forms for a name change. I want my 3 oldest to drop Jensen from their lives. I don't care if you switch to Whitman or name yourselves after a cartoon squad. Just stop dragging around a name you've long since forfeited. That name doesn't belong to you anymore. Marcus, freshly returned from deployment, grabbed one of the papers and scanned it quickly. You've lost it. You really want your own children to erase your name from their identity? You already erased me in every way that mattered, I said flatly. This just makes it official. Kendra dabbed at her eyes, her hands trembling. Dad, please. Isn't this going too far? My name? It's part of who I am. I shrugged. So is betrayal. If you want to keep it, prove you deserve it. Because I'm not finished. I've got demands, tailored specially for each of you. That broke the dam. Voices rose, fingers pointed, curses flung across the table like knives. Jared yelled that I was a manipulative lunatic. I slammed my palm down, the crack silencing the room. You're damn right I am. And where do you think I learned that kind of cruelty? From every one of you. I jabbed a finger around the room. You want a piece of me? You'll get it. But first, you're going to taste what it feels like to lose something that matters. Just like I did. They glared at me, but I pushed forward. Marcus, I said, eyes locked on him. Our brave aviator. Kaya's shining example. You love her, don't you? Prove it. I tossed a mirror and a sealed bag onto the table. Let's pretend what's inside is illegal. Take a hit, right here, for her. He recoiled, face twisted in disbelief. Are you kidding me? That could destroy my entire future. Everything I've worked for. Exactly, I said, voice like stone. Just like my life fell apart when you kept your mother's lies from me. But you're the hero, right? Ready to lay down your life for the flag? Let's see if you'd risk your name for your sister. If not, we'll all see exactly how much she's worth to you. Then I turned to Julian. Reaching into my coat, I slid a hotel key card across the table. The room's booked. There's a woman inside. Not a pro, just willing. Spend 2 hours with her. The camera's already set up. I'll store the footage in a safe deposit box with instructions to release it to your wife if I die. Because you need to feel what it's like to live under the shadow of betrayal. Julian blanched, his voice cracking. You can't be serious. I've got a family, kids. You'd blow up my entire life. You blew up mine, I said coolly. So yeah, I can. Tear up that key if you want. Or make the choice to show Kaya she matters more than your image. The choice is yours. Finally, I turned to Kendra. Her lips quivered, and her whole body tensed. We have an appointment tomorrow. OB-GYN. You're signing sterilization consent forms. The doctor's expecting you. She gasped, pulling back like I'd struck her. Why would you do that? What kind of punishment is this? You robbed me of the chance to be a father to Kaya, I said. You knew Sabrina was pregnant, and you kept it secret. You decided I didn't deserve to know. Well, now I've decided the same for you." Sabrina stood so fast her chair toppled over. "Enough!" she screamed, finger trembling as she pointed at me. "You're a monster! You can't treat them like this!" I rose to meet her, leaning in close, voice like fire and frost. "Just watch me." "Watch me," I said, steady and sharp. "If losing a kidney is the price, then fine, I'll pay it. I've walked around hollow for 7 years, the echo of a family carved out of me. This is the debt. If you can't stomach it, go find someone else." The atmosphere was suffocating, thick like it could smother us if we stayed too long inside it. No one moved. A full minute dragged by in silence before Sabrina slowly eased back into her chair. "Damien," she said finally, her tone flat and dry. "I didn't think you'd fall this far. You're really going to scar your own children just because you can't handle the damage we did?" A grim smile crept across my face. "Is that your professional diagnosis? That I'm broken? I've lived with nothing but broken. For almost a decade, pain was my only companion. I'm just returning the favor." I shut the folder with a snap and walked toward the door, tossing one last sentence behind me like a match. "Time's running out. Let me know." 2 days later, the cracks began to show. Marcus? I made him snort powdered sugar off a table like a washed-up addict. It was a test. Cruel, yes, but intentional. I watched him do it, just to see him break. I think he cried afterward. Wouldn't be surprised. But he still did it. Swallowed his pride, and probably a few other things too. Julian sent a text at 2:07 a.m. One word, done. I didn't reply, didn't ask what it meant. I knew whatever he'd done had shattered his marriage, maybe for good. Kendra tried a different path. She pleaded through tears, hoping to reach the father she remembered. But she still walked into that clinic, hands shaking, lips trembling. I stood there as she signed the consent form. A psych eval was required before anything could move forward, so things stalled. But the fear in Kendra's eyes made it clear. She'd go through with it. For Kaya, no question. The next day, I called one last meeting. They came looking like ghosts, drained, empty, everything vibrant in them stripped bare. Whatever arrogance they'd once had was gone, replaced with the dull look of people who'd seen too much. I told them I'd be the one donating the kidney. Their faces didn't just register shock, they screamed it. Sabrina's expression twisted with pure fury. "You did all of this just to punish them," she spat, practically trembling. "Exactly," I answered. "I wanted them to understand what betrayal costs. They took everything from me. I needed them to lose something that mattered. But the transplant? I'm still going through with it." I looked at her hard. "Kaya doesn't deserve to pay for the pain you all caused." Then I turned to the 3 people who used to call me Dad, each one hollowed out by what I'd asked them to do. "Consider it your rite of passage," I said. "I survived the fire. Now you've felt the heat too." No one replied. There were no words left that could glue together what had shattered. A week later, I lay in a sterile hospital bed, waiting for the anesthesia to take hold. Sabrina and Jared stood near the foot of the bed, with Kaya between them. She looked painfully fragile, but her eyes, those sharp, knowing eyes, still held fire. She stepped closer, uncertain. "Are you my daddy?" she asked, her voice barely audible. I paused, throat tightening. "Maybe," I said, smiling through wet eyes. "If you want me to be." She gave me the faintest smile, more shadow than substance. "Thank you for helping me," she whispered. Before I could answer, Sabrina hurried forward, gripping Kaya's hand and shooting me a glance so cold it could have frozen fire. I might have saved her daughter's life, but that didn't erase what I'd done to get here. The operation went smoothly. Kaya's body accepted the kidney like it had been waiting for it. The surgeons called it a textbook success, a modern miracle. I spent the next several weeks healing. With nowhere else to go, they let me stay at Sabrina and Jared's house, my old home. My boat was docked nearby, and the hospital was close enough for follow-ups. The place was wallpapered with memories, but none included me. Photos of my children, older now, faces half familiar and strange at the same time. Some smiling. Others looked like they were trying too hard to smile. Hairline fractures in a picture-perfect frame. Once I could move around, I snooped through their things. Part of me wanted to torch it all, reduce it to ash. But then, in the backyard, I found something small and sacred. A ring of stones, a faded plastic flower, and a name etched into a weathered sign. Finn. A pet, clearly. A memory that belonged to Kaya. I left it alone. A month later, I was stronger than I'd been in years, at least physically. Inside, I was a mess. Vengeance is a heavy burden, and I'd carried it into every conversation, every confrontation, every cruel moment. Still, there was a strange lightness in me too. I'd made them understand helplessness. I made them feel that sharp edge of betrayal. It wasn't heroic, it wasn't kind, but it felt like closure. Warped, sure, but real. After that, I slipped back into the drift. Island to island. Some weeks I took on charter jobs, hauling tourists around for beer money. Other times, I just found a beach shack where the drinks were cold and the music didn't ask questions. The bitterness, it stayed with me, like a shadow that never burns off, no matter how bright the sun gets. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.